So someone over at Bandai and Sunrise wondered what would it be like if we took some unicorn Gundam and shoved it right on into the RX-78-2, and this right here was born. The RX-78F00E Gundam with the EX-001 g.l.r.s.s feather unit round back. This is one incredible looking RX-78 with a really shiny backpack. We'll talk about that a bit more later. But yeah, if you feel like you recognize this, it's because it did exist before. This is the model kit of the moving statue that was in Tokyo, so we would have seen it. I did review it before. Now it's got some brand new stuff because it has been refurbished into a brand new statue in Osaka for the Osaka Kansai Japan Expo 2025. So you've got a kneeling statue there right now with some of these plates on it, but apparently we will be getting a brand new 1:1 scale statue in Shizuoka in Japan for the brand new Gundam factory, the second one that is apparently opening this summer. Hopefully that means more gunpla. And speaking of needing more gunpla, this video right here would not have been possible without those awesome people over at Hobbylink Japan, so link is down there in the description. But anyway, let's go back in time and check out the build and then get into the review. So getting back to that build, and first off when it comes to the box of this kit, there is a couple of kind of confusing things about it. First off, this came out a day earlier than Gunpla usually does come out, and the same week other kits came out. On top of that, on the exact same day, these two variants came out as well, and I thought this was the same kit just separated into two packages. It is not. It is not. There's a big world difference between the two. Combined package we're looking at today, so much nicer. I'll talk about that later. Also, on busting open the box, there is a whole lot of plastic in here, and that kind of does make the price point of this make a little bit more sense. This is in the upper 3,000 yen zone. I'll pop it up on the screen because I don't remember off the top of my head. Whereas the other two we just saw are in the lower 1,000 yen zones, which, you know, kind of makes sense. One's entry grade, this one right here is akin to a high grade, but it's essentially a no grade. On top of that, on taking a look at the runners in here, this is not what I expected. I thought this was a new kit, but it is and it isn't. This is still the RX-78F00 we would have seen in the past, especially because it says it on the runners that these are 2020 parts, at least on the Gundam itself, but they have relabeled the front of them to say that it is the glass feather version. However, as far as I can see, these runners are exactly the same as what we would have seen. What is new in here is all the glass feather stuff round back, which is very unique to say the least. On top of that, we do have some sticker style marking decals included, which is nice. What isn't so nice is this big old sheet of stickers. Ho! These are reflective ones mainly for underneath the clear blue parts, which look good, not fun to apply. First off, when it does come to the build of the actual Gundam, like I said, this is exactly the same as what we would have seen 5 years ago with the no-grade RX-78F00. So that does mean it's a very polycap heavy build, so there's a lot of polycaps in pretty much every moving part on it. So if you like or don't like that, that will affect your enjoyment of the build. Besides that though, it is incredibly basic. It is just joint parts and armor parts, and everything just builds up in an old school kind of way. There's nothing really that reflects anything mechanical or anything like that, just basic, old school, high grade style Gundam building. Now this is not a high grade, which is worth noting. It's actually a no grade, but I'm going to rank it as if it is a high grade because it is based on the standard old school high grade polycap system, which makes it more high grade than anything else. The color separation is pretty decent for the best part, but I will mention there is an issue with that again. Long story short, the kit looks like this finished. It's meant to look like this. Yeah, anyway, make sure you've got some paints handy. When it comes to the head, it is a little bit on the disappointing side because of how old school that it is. The eyes are that classic kind of clear, featureless eyes that you can color in yourself if you do want to. And if you are going to use the stickers in here, these are not great. They come as two separate aspects. There's a kind of overlapping white section in the middle, so it does mean you have to line them both individually. And these are those kind of dead eyes. They're not shiny, so they don't look particularly fantastic. Overall though, basic, old school, high grade-esque build. Now when we get around to the backpack, things take a completely different turn. Now first off, I will mention when this is complete, it looks absolutely fantastic. It gives a little bit of a 30-minute missions kind of vibe with a unicorn-esque feel with the plates that kind of look like Psychoplate. However, when you are building this, oh my god, the amount of stickers. Oh, it went a little like this. But But yeah, stickers out of the way, it does look great. You build up some nice armor for up on the shoulders, which replaces the original Gundam's shoulders. The front skirting replaces the original front skirting, and we've got some nice, what looks like high mobility armor and thrusters on the lower legs, which gives them some nice thickness. When it comes to the backpack, this is very nicely designed. We've got a whole lot going on. We've got moving sub-arms with actual functioning clippy bits. The wings are made out of multiple segments. We've got a cool fuel tank, and we've got really nice thrusters. Everything about it does have a little bit of a 30-minute missions flair, but it gels better with a Gundam than actual 30-minute missions parts. Overall though, besides the amount of stickers, it is quite impressive. But just like with the Gundam itself, if you just didn't know about the color separation or how it was meant to look, you might be super happy with this. It does look phenomenal, there's a lot of detail. Panel line this up and it will look incredible. But when you know what this should look like, which is this right here, it is incredibly disappointing. That looks absolutely phenomenal. Two-tone white, that's light gray and pure white, and there is some dark gray and yellow all over the place. That looks great. What we get out of box does pale in comparison, sadly. So yeah, with a little bit of a lackluster build on the Gundam itself, the absolute tedium of the polycaps and the tedium of these stickers means that overall this isn't a very satisfying build, especially if you're considering it compared to modern high grades. However, what you do get in the end looks phenomenal, so it's one of those cases where the end definitely justifies the tedious means. Alright, so before we jump into the aesthetics, I'm going to get that backpack off, and even though the build was a little bit, or a lot of it on the kind of tedious side with all the stickers, polycaps and all of that, the actual Gundam build was incredibly basic. What you end up with looks phenomenal, and all those stickers were definitely worth it. Also, this is one of those Gundams that if you panel line it up, it will look incredible, but it is easy to go overboard on the panel lines because there is so many. Anyway, we're just going to remove the equipment and just take a look at the Gundam itself first. So getting properly into the aesthetics, and there we go, that is what we get once the 1/44th scale RX-78F00 Gundam is complete. So it seems like the RX-78-2 has followed the trend of the narrative Gundam in raiding the Unicorn Gundam's closet. So what we've got is essentially the RX-78F00 we would have seen before, but now we've got some brand new shoulders, front skirtings, and those really cool, thickifying new calf armor thrusters. So again, this kit right here isn't necessarily a high grade, but it is based on high grade tech. The design and the build are very high gradey. It's got the high grade polycap runner, and overall, it's very high gradey, more than no gradey. If you just take what you have here as it is, this is a very nice variant of the RX-78-2. The colors are great, the design is nice and blocky, and if you love panel lining, this is a panel liner's dream. Now, as you can tell, I haven't panel lined this kit at all, but every single surface, every single little element is absolutely etched to hell and back with some very nice panel lines. So if you want to get into all of those, you're going to have a really good time. Now, this is so detailed basically because it is based on a life-size statue that was in Yokohama, so that is why we've got such incredible detail on it. However, like I mentioned, once you do slap this down side by side with what it's meant to look like, you kind of see where it is lacking. For example, even the white itself is in 3 different colors: white, light gray, and dark gray. The blue is in 2-tone as well. We've got some light blue as well as the dark blue, and all over the place there's little bits of extra detail. Now, if you do like painting your kits, well then you're in for a fairly decent time. Well, if you're hand painting things, otherwise you might be entering the realm of masking hell. Unless you love masking kits, then you're gonna absolutely love this. However, if you do just take it as it is a very nice Gundam kit, and what really stands out to me is the way they've pulled off the kind of, I know they're not psycho plate panels, but that is what they look like. What they actually are is part of the glass feather thing, so they're kind of like a energy generation thing for long space flights, basically. But yeah, molded into the actual clear blue is a lot of nice little facets that kind of reflect the light in a very nice way. The use of the, again, tedious to apply stickers underneath does make sure that this shines on through absolutely perfectly, and the end right here definitely does justify the means. They've really killed these panels. They look great. So yeah, like I mentioned, this kit comes with a whole lot of stickers, and I've probably gone on about these silver ones a little bit too much already, so I'm gonna stop with that. But there are some other ones on here as well. So first off, we do have the eye sticker up top. That is number 1 and 2. Surprisingly enough, it doesn't actually look too bad from this angle right here. A lot of other angles, and they start to look a little on the funny side because they're the same kind of shininess level as the black, which does kind of cause some funny issues every now and then. Visually, these don't look the best, and again, it seems like this kit right here might be suited more so for those who are going to completely and utterly paint their kits. We've got a whole ton of these green and red stickers. Now, these are the kind of position lights or navigation lights you'd see on aircraft. So these actually are for sticking up on the tips of the shoulders, not these shoulders by the way, and on the knees as well. They're meant to actually have some grey around them, and then the position lights for the left and the right orientation of the Gundam. The last one then sadly is the yellow V for in the crotch right here, and I'm actually going to mention there is another variant of this kit available which is very subpar to this one besides that yellow V. That being the entry grade right here. Anyway, yeah. The vast majority of this is not as nice as the kit we're taking a look at today, but the V is color separated, which is something, well, actually, so are the eyes. It's something that entry grades do so well that I'm shocked isn't adapted into high grade or high grade adjacent kits. But yeah, at the end of the day, the pros definitely outweigh the cons. Sure, there is a lot of color detail lacking. The color separation could be a little nicer. You could even say that this design would be definitely more suited towards a real grade. That would be very nice. However, what we do get is great. The proportions are fantastic. I love this take on the RX-78-2. The addition of the new almost narrative or unicorn Gundam plates looks phenomenal. We've got some nice detail as well, like the handles up on the shoulders, those nice thrusters, and without a single doubt, with some detailing up and a lot of panel lining, this could look incredible. So I will mention there are some stickered style decals in here, and depending on the kind of build you do with this kit, because there are options available, it will depend on the ones that you're using. So I used the 2 for this particular mode right here, but if you're building it like the statue with a standard Gundam shoulder on the right hand side, you can use the bigger included sticker. Anyway, jumping into those size comparisons, and there it is side by side with 2 other RX-78-2s, that being the RX-78-2 high grade revive on the left and the real grade RX-78-2 on the right. I know this is an RX-78-2, but it's essentially an RX-78-2. As you can see, it has a very nice shape compared to what you would actually see on the standard revive to the left, but again, that would be down to your own preference. So compared to some more kits, there's the high grade G.l.r.s.s, high grade Police Saku, high grade D Gundam First, and the high grade Gundam Aerial Rebuild. So jumping on into the accessories, and this kit comes absolutely fully loaded. We've got the glass feather backpack, the full Gundam loadout of the shield, the beam rifle, beam sabers but no beams. We've got a beam weld gun, all the stuff that was stripped off the Gundam, which is the shoulders, skirting and thrusters, extra shoulder parts for building the statue version of this. We've got 5 alternate hands, that's not even including the 2 attached, so grand total of 7, and we have some little adapters and pieces included as well. So when it comes to the hands, we've got a lot of options in here. We've got the standard holding hands we've seen the whole time. When it comes to the left hands, of course, there's the holding hand, a trigger finger holding hand, standard widespread hands, as well as the curled widespread hand that is on the statue to replicate its pose. Over on the other side then, it is the holding hands once again, the widespread hands once again, and one that is exclusive to this kit, which is a kind of closed fist. This isn't the holding hand, this is the one to represent the one that's on the statue over in Osaka. So also inside the box, we've got a bunch of accessories you would have seen before with the no grade RX-78F00. So I'm not going to really go through them too much. We've got a standard shield right here. This does have an adjustable back section and a holdable, movable handle. It attaches onto the back of the arm the way you'd expect it to. We've got a pair of beam sabers in here. These have nice color separation. We've got dark gray on white, which is very nice. What isn't very nice is there is no beams in here. These are for storing up in the backpack only. Again, if you want more information, the other review. Same with the beam rifle right here. This is quite a nice beam rifle, honestly. Nice color. We've got a moving handle down bottom and a moving sight up top, which is color separated into the yellow. Can be held in the hand in the trigger finger holding hand. We've got the standard Gundam shoulders, which were removed to put on the new ones, and the skirting armor that were removed for the same reason. We also have these little shoulder sections, which are for using on the brand new shoulders, and they just pop onto the shoulder like this. Again, this is to look like the statue, but today we're going to stick with the actual full glass feather version. And that brings us right to this right here, which is the glass feather wings. This, again, like I mentioned, can take a lot of time. It's a little bit tedious to get all of the stickers on, but it is worth it in the end. Also, like I mentioned, the color separation now around back is not great. It's meant to be a light gray in between all of these areas. It's meant to be yellow down here. There's a ton of different color, like you can see right here, that, well, that is what it's meant to look like. Again, you can either paint this up yourself or leave it as it is. Most of the time, you're probably going to be looking from the front, and the front does look pretty solid. It is worth noting that this is a single peg attachment, but the actual backpack on the Gundam is a double backpack adapter, So when this is combined on here, it is a double peg. However, there is a little bit of a lip down there that might get in the way of compatibility a little bit. Alright, so I'm going to be trying out with the Caliban right here because it's predominantly in white. Also, it kind of has a bit of a sticking out back, so this probably should fit with no issue. Yeah, there we go. Pops on. Oh, never mind. These pegs are not standard peg width. I'll have to try something else. They feel too narrow. Alright, I'll just grab as simple a Gundam as I can, which is the high-grade RX-78 Revive. Let's have a see. No, the Revive has two annoying little bits that kind of stick out that block it for like no particular reason. But yeah, those pegs are not standard high grade. They would need to be thickened up a little bit in order to fit. So besides the color separation issues and the lack of compatibility, this is very impressive. Overall, the design is quite nice, very reminiscent of Bandai's other mecha line, which is 30-minute missions. It would gel in with those absolutely perfectly. We've got a lot of articulation, this big section here, which I assume is the battery pack. This moves all the way up and down on a simple hinge. The wings themselves are double jointed, so we've got rotation and a hinge as well, so you can bring them back and forward, rotate them all around. The plates can pop off and the lower guys like to shoot off pretty much all the time. The thrusters are quite nice. We've got a little bit of a rotation as well as a hinge here too, so you can move them back as well as out and in a little bit. Definitely the most interesting part of this right here are the sub-arms. So these have a lot of simple articulation, which allows them to come round and forward just like so at multiple joints, and we do have an opening end on these as well. Again, the color accuracy is not great on these as well, but they do look incredibly nice. So when it comes to getting this attached onto an action base, and I will mention there is no standard action base included, you've got a couple of choices. One is stick it up the regular Gundam stand booty hole, which is what I had done earlier on in the intro, so you can do it just like that. But we also have this little bit of an attachment for using on stands, which attaches onto the glass feather unit right here. So it just cradles it like so. This, oh yeah, there's a click. I was going to say it didn't feel that secure, but actually it's feeling not too bad at all. So when it comes to getting the Gundam attached onto this, it's super simple. You've got a hole in the backpack, a peg on the glass feather unit, and you just pop it on just like so. Getting into a little bit of a pose, there is what it looks like finally with the glass feather unit attached, and this does look incredible. Again, I wasn't totally sold on it personally before actually building it and seeing it in person, but it does look absolutely spectacular, and Bandai has made it work very, very well. So lastly then, here we've got one final accessory, which is this right here, which is the beam weld gun. When it's not in use, it can be stored on the forearm just like so. This pops off the storage just like so. So as for the beam weld gun right here, this is the stored version. To change it into the non-stored version, just parts form the front of it by removing this piece and popping in this almost fan-looking secondary aspect. This right here then just attaches into the holding hand sandwich style. Now this doesn't grip, so you do have to kind of balance it in position while attaching the fingers on, not too difficult. Then it pops on into the arm just like so. And that right there is what it looks like attached. Definitely a very unique design without a single doubt. However, if you're not really a big fan of this kind of weapon, of course the shield and the beam rifle are also included. Last up in here we have some little adapters. Now what this is for is the particular glass feather parts of the wings can actually detach in typical Gundam kind of flying funnel or bit style. The wings are made out of 4 each, triangular one, the main body of the wing, and then 2 smaller ones. That's actually the purpose of the sub-arms around back. They're actually for modularly attaching and reattaching all of these various different elements. It doesn't do a really good job of holding them. It can't hold the pieces, so you can't pose it like that. In order to use the little adapter aspects, which you have 4 in here, they just pop onto any of the pieces that you want to display flying around just like so. So you can pop them kind of hovering in the air beside your Gundam just like so. There are no stands included, so you would need about 4. So that's the typical Witch from Mercury stand packet that you'll be needing for this kit. So finally now onto the articulation. First, whoa, yeah, okay, I guess that brings me right to the first point. The comment on the overall strength of the build, and it's okay. As you can see, it's kind of wiggly. It's got that old school polycap kind of wiggle to it, but I have built this kit before in the standard RX-78F00 form, and it did not hold up too great over time. It's starting to very, very weaken and get loose. Not necessarily sure as to why. It does seem like standard polycaps, but again, polycaps were kind of like that. It's not the worst, but definitely not the best when it comes to the build and the structure. Anyway, testing out the usual pose. So anyway, getting into the usual pose, and as you can see, it does struggle in a lot of different areas. Its head fell off, part of its shoulder fell off. It just doesn't really do what you'd expect it to do. Overall, when you do get it into the pose, this definitely feels like a very dated high grade. I know it's not a high grade, it's a non-grade, but what it does feel and pose like is a high grade from the 2000s. It has all the basic articulation you'd ever want, and it'll definitely do really good up in the air. However, it is lacking when it comes to the ankle articulation and around in the waist and torso. Again, very classic feeling for a 1/44th scale kit. You're not going to get anything too over the top, but you will get the basic poses that you want out of it. However, I do feel that this particular format, this particular kit, doesn't age too well, so I wouldn't overpose it too much, because the previously released other version of it did loosen up quite a bit. Alright, so going through all of the articulation on here, and we've got the classic high-grade polycap layout here, so that's the giggity goo neck. When it comes to the up and the down on here, it's not too bad. Simple, the neck pops off very easy though. Basic side to side, so that can swing all the way around. The polycaps in the shoulders are aligned to move up and down like so there is not much forward and back, which kind of does limit the dynamic articulation a bit. We've got full rotation at the shoulder. The shoulder on this kit is attached into the arm, so it does all move together like this. Also, there's a strange design here of a vernier and this little kind of bit. So that means you've got very little actual movement inside of the shoulder, to the likes I've never really seen before. So that's what you get outwards. So the polycap moving up kind of helps with that. Full bicep swivel, quite a decent bend at the elbow, single point, standard polycap wrist. The ab crunch is incredibly basic, so back, forward, not a lot. Same goes with the rotation, it is blocked at that point. The front skirting armors can move up and down like so. Standard polycap side skirting, so up and down, and then rotation on this axis. Not premium, stuck in place butt flap, which does result in kicks being a bit limited towards the back. Towards the front, very good, well, all right. There's no dropping mechanism or anything like that in the hip, and that is it to the back. As for the splits, this can pull them off perfectly, so the leg can go all the way out to the side. Full rotation at the upper leg. A fairly decent bend at the knee right here. It's nice and smooth, it is 2 point, so it can move all the way up to there. Not too bad. And when it comes to the ankles, it's decent enough forward and back like so. Not great, but decent. But side to side, there isn't really much at all. There's no toe bend, but this armor can move up and down ever so slightly. So the articulation in here, even though it is quite basic, is not too bad for, well, the head likes to fall off, is not too bad for in the air poses. And it will get you some kind of classic Gundam poses, but nothing too crazy or over the top. It gets the job done, but not really in a stylish sort of way. So when it comes to the RX-78F00 Gundam with the EX-001 glass feather unit, this is an X-Silver tier Gundam. This is heavy on the accessories with some great accessories inside of the box, and overall the looks do win out even though they don't quite meet the levels that they show you on the box. Overall it is a nice kit but nothing fantastic. The best kind of aspect about this particular kit right here is the fact that it is an Osaka. Well, it's not an exclusive, it's more of a celebration because it wasn't actually exclusive to that. This is one of those kits that I'd recommend picking up if you do go see the statue, just as a nice little keepsake. As for actually ordering one online and grabbing it like that, that would be down to your own preference. If you like the look of it, I say absolutely go for it. When it comes to the aesthetics, technically this should be just 2 out of 5. This should just be silver tier aesthetics. However, I did push it up to gold just because it just works. It's not nearly as nice as it looks on the box. It doesn't have nearly the amount of colors. This kit would really benefit from having a real grade, but of course that would come with a real grade price. If you're into detailing up and painting your own kits, that doesn't matter at all. This will look absolutely fantastic and the clear parts are astounding. The articulation definitely is very, very basic. The backpack has some nice features, but the Gundam itself is very limited. It's old school high grade feeling even though it is not a high grade. I actually feel like Bandai dodged a lot of bullets by not calling this a high grade, because then you don't really have a quality level to be expecting, I guess. Accessories wise, that's the strongest aspect. You get a full Gundam loadout in here, sans the beam effects, as well as the whole backpack and all the parts that customize this into the statue. If you like swapping around bits and pieces and all that sort of stuff, this kit would be great for that. However, I do find the actual no grade 1/44th scale format does loosen up, so don't play around with it too much. Finally then, when it comes to the build, this is a little bit loose out of box, and the build in general is extremely tedious. There's nothing fun about it, it does nothing new, it feels like something from 20 years ago. Not necessarily the backpack, that feels quite cool besides the stickers, but the Gundam itself. Not the most fun build, there's a lot more fun out there in the same price and scale range. Honestly, it's one of those kits you could take or leave depending on how you feel about the overall design. Do you really need another RX-78-2 variant or not? That is up to yourself. Anyway, I got mine right here through HobbyLink Japan. As always, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to come back for more gunpla reviews, and I will see you next time. As always, all these videos on here would not be possible without each and every one of you guys watching these videos, so thank you so much. And special thanks to those of you who are helping out over on the Patreon, as well as on the channel members, including Abraxas, Caleb Engelhart, Joe or G, 59061, Scotty Thomas, Simon, and Van Fawn.